Obviously, moving on to the challenge this week is Michigan and Coach Harbaugh, and obviously the big house. So tremendous opportunity, tremendous. I know our guys are excited about the opportunity. If you look at them, they're a veteran team. 21 of 29 starters returning this season. Obviously, they opened the season with a loss to Notre Dame. And since then, have played really well. Offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton, I've known Pep forever. Pep's spent a lot of time in D.C. And Howard when I was at the University of Maryland. I've known Pep for a long time. He does a really good job. Had a nice career in the NFL for a number of years. Gained great experience. Has now been at Michigan now for the last 2 years. And obviously, him and Coach Harbaugh are obviously heavily involved in the offense. Big thing with them is their balance. They're extremely balanced offensively. I think in some ways they're similar to what we faced last week in terms of they're a run-first team, and a lot of their offense is based around their tight ends. They got two very difficult matchups as tight ends, both in the run and pass game. So that'll be a real challenge for us. And then obviously the transfer quarterback Shea Patterson has really helped them. They were able to get a veteran guy who's played a lot of football and has mobility, so that'll be challenging. The stat that probably jumps out the most with those guys is time of possession. They're 7th in FBS with time of possession, but I think obviously we know the defense plays a huge part in that.
How would you describe the Michigan defensive line? You had a lot of great drive with defensive line last week. How would you describe how good Michigan's defensive line is?
I think they're really good, but I think the difference is with Iowa, they were really controlling the game on the defense side of the ball with their D-line. They put a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure on their D-line. It started and ended with their D-line. Literally, you saw them tape, you'd line up in empty formations, and they'd play a 4-man box. And they were able to do that because of how they coached and how they played those defensive lines, especially with their length, which is really unusual. So I think it really started and ended with their D-line in a lot of different ways. Where Michigan, obviously their personnel is impressive. Gary, we all know about him. The defensive end we just talked about, we know about him, and then a linebacker. But I would say what really is Michigan is the corners. It starts, with their corners. They're able to put those guys on an island and play press man coverage all the time. But again, there's very few plays where you look on the film and you see a light box. They're going to overload you in the box. Everybody's at the line of scrimmage, pressuring you in your face. High pressure, run game blitzes, pass game blitzes, and it's challenging. There's no doubt about it. I think you guys have heard me mention this before. It reminds me, when I first got, to the University of Maryland, we played Florida State. They were really talented, and they played press man. They overloaded the box, and there wasn't a whole lot of yards when you watch the tape. You're fighting for every yard you can get, and that's how I would describe them. Don, as a defensive coordinator, and their defense, I would describe them as greedy. They want to take everything away, where most defensive coordinators and coaches don't really approach it that way. So it's real challenging. But I think obviously their personnel is extremely good. They've been recruiting well for a long time, even before this staff arrived. Personnel has always been strong at Michigan. But I think obviously their scheme combined with their personnel is very challenging.
James, what do you see, you and Brent see as Micah's upside at linebacker? A lot of people out there are like, why don't we just play him at the end? But I'm assuming you guys see something for him long term at that position. What do you see for him?
Well, I think you probably see both. I don't think there's any question that Micah could play the end. We had an opportunity where we had a little bit more depth at the end, and we had more questions at linebacker, and felt like he could answer some of those questions, and he wanted to do it. I think one of the things that's nice is I think as Micah continues to grow and get more confidence, and Brent gains more confidence as well, I think there's a lot of ways we can use them in both ways. You know, I think we can use him as a linebacker. I think we can get him into situations from personnel packages where we're using him to blitz the quarterback and rush the quarterback. So in a lot of ways, you're able to take advantage of all of his skills. But that'll be a constant conversation, you know, over the next number of years here. But for us right now, I see him getting better each week and gaining confidence. The reps usually show that, indicate that. So I think you'll see Micah continue to grow and play with more confidence. And I think you'll also continue to see Micah to have more and more production. And then I think as he continues to really start to master that position, I think you'll start to see us put more things on his plate. Now, Micah wants all those things now. I mean, Micah wants to play linebacker, he wants to play running back, and he wants to wrestle for Kale, which, and he's not kidding. Talk to Kale about it. He wants to do it all, and he wants to do it all yesterday. And that's just kind of, getting Micah to understand, let's focus on one thing at a time and get really good at that one thing before we put the next thing on his plate. But he's good, he says it kidding around, but he's deadly serious. And we have a lot of fun with him, but right now, we're pretty pleased with how he's handled himself in the classroom and how he's growing as a linebacker, and how he's embracing all the aspects of our program. But it's one day at a time, it's one step at a time, no different than anything else. But I think you'll see it over time. It'll happen slowly but surely.
This morning, Garrett Taylor told us that you pointed out in the Sunday team session, Etor Gross-Matos' practice habits. Curious what those habits have looked like and how you've seen them translate on game day.
Yeah, so Etor is a guy that he doesn't know anything else but full speed. Some guys you have to coach that, and they figure it out later in their career. Some guys you fight with them their whole career, and they never practice as hard as they should practice, and then it never translates, and they never end up maximizing their potential and their ability. And then other guys just naturally have great motor. I think this guy at Michigan, their DN 15, Winovich, am I saying his name right? He's got unbelievable motor. I think Etor's got a great motor. And what's really good, and I think what's really important is when your team sees a guy like that practice like that all the time, and then is able to have the success that he has, that sends a great message for our whole team in terms of what work ethic and motor can do. I don't know if I've been around a DN 2 weeks in a row with that type of production in the Big Ten. Really, really impressive. I think the most important thing is, sometimes, Coach Pry will call a stunt, or Coach or Coach Chaos Spencer will call a stunt, and we'll slant into a gap and no one will block him. You tackle a guy in the backfield, and the guy gets up and goes crazy and all that kind of stuff. But a certain percentage, the scheme made the play for him. Then you have the guys who defeat a block and make a play, and they did it. And right now, what I see is happening is kind of a combination of those two things. A lot of his tackles, if you go back and watch his production, it's not at the point of attack. He's the backside end, and he's running the play down on the opposite side of the field. So to me, whenever I can show that in a team meeting on Sunday and show those type of effort plays, I think it goes a long ways. So, I'm really pleased. He's a guy that I think you guys know we've been excited about for a while. He's got the body type you're looking for. He's got the athleticism you're looking for. He's got the mentality. And again, hadn't played a whole lot of football for us and is gaining confidence and spent time in the weight room in the off season. So it's all starting to come together for him right now. We're going to need him to play really well on Saturday. And as you can imagine, they're also doing the opposite. They're saying this guy's playing his tail off right now, identified him, and they're saying we can't allow this guy to have the type of production he's had the last couple of weeks. So just like we're trying to continue the trend, they're trying to stop the trend.
Hey, James.
Hey.
You guys have, almost half your staff is in new roles this year. You mentioned special teams scheme earlier. Has there been more of a transition there? Have you been part of that before, other than maybe your first year here, where people were in new spots, and how much growing pains did you anticipate? How would you gauge that factor?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor. I don't think there's any doubt about it. You look at my career as a head coach, we've had pretty good consistency. I think you guys have also heard me talk in the past about, the importance of experience. Experience counts, and stability counts, and consistency counts. Joe Moorhead leaving to go be the head coach of Mississippi State. That's the right thing for Joe, that's the right thing for his family, and that's a win for everybody. That's a great situation. But we can't have guys leave for lateral moves. Lateral moves in terms of job description and professionally. That's what can't happen, because the reality is every time you lose someone and you have to replace them with someone new, there's a transition process. There's growing pains. That's always a part, year in and year out. No different than losing players that graduate, losing players to the NFL, replacing those guys. There's growing pains that come with that. We lost 3 D tackles last year. We knew coming into this season that was going to be a big question mark for us, getting those guys. And the same thing with the coaches. The administrative staff that's been with us for a long time, the fact that those guys have now been with me all these years, it probably saves an hour and a half a day. So if you hire someone new, I'm spending an hour explaining all those things that these guys, I don't have to say a word to about. Whenever you hire a new coach, they may have great experience, but you look, they've come from somewhere else that has a different system and has a different culture, and they have to fit into it. I think a lot of times when you hit turnover, where you really start to get a return on your investment is year 2. So yeah, I think for us, we got to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can in terms of creating a really good environment that people want to come to work at every single day. And then also that financially, we're paying the same salaries that everybody else is in terms of our peer groups. That's got to happen, because to sit here and say that that's not a factor, it is a factor. This is a special place, but that's a factor. So yeah, I think retention is really, really important for us to keep growing. And again, people leave for obvious promotions. That's a different story. That's a different story.
Time for 2 more?
Did I answer your question? Yes, sir. I don't know if it's the mid-green shirt, but you just seem, your spirit's a lot better. Spirit's a lot better. Sometimes you're a little bit like, what is that cartoon with the cartoon with the one, is it Eeyore? Oh. The mid-green, it's got your wife's gonna be all over that. Huh? I don't know who that is. Gotcha.
From a coaching perspective, where's the disconnect between what you're preparing for each week and then how it's executed? Because you've mentioned some of these special teams phase, you've been preparing for them all week and then they work. How do you get a team to execute on those plays across the board, offense, defense, and special teams for things that you know are coming, and then you execute like you practice for?
Yeah, let's be honest. On offense, defense, and special teams, your point is a good one. So on offense, defense, and special teams, there is going to be plays that we prepared for and schemes that we're expecting to see, and we're going to execute at a high level. But there's going to be plays where we don't. They're on scholarship too, they got really good coaches too, there's going to be times where they get you. That's going to happen. You want that percentage to be as small as it possibly can be. There's also going to be the other end of that, where something's going to show up in the game that Michigan is going to get from us that we haven't shown before, and that we're going to get from Michigan that we haven't seen before, a new wrinkle. Something is going to show up. And then that's where you have to go back and say, okay, we haven't seen this, but here are our rules for bunch. Here are our rules for empty. Here's our rules for unbalanced. Here's our rules for odd stack. So you can't cover everything all week long. You got to invest your time in the things that you think you're going to see, and then have rules to cover the others. And then you're going to have some things that you cover and you work and you don't execute. And that's happened a few times. I think what happens sometimes with guys is they know their responsibility, but then they try to do too much. So they know the responsibility, and then they try to do too much to help somebody else or take on somebody else's responsibility, and that haunts you. So at the end of the day, you got to be disciplined enough to do your job within the scheme. If you're responsible for the A gap, you got to be in the A gap. You got to be in the A gap. And I think what happens sometimes is, you know, the ball's about to hit the B gap, and you get out of the A gap and jump in the B gap to make the play, and you make it, but then the next time that happens, now you jump into the B gap, and then the running back sticks his foot in the ground and hits the A gap, and now you didn't do your job. So it's that fine line of, I gotta do my job, and I gotta trust that the other 10 guys are gonna do their jobs consistently. You may get away with that a few times, where you go outside of the framework of the defense or the offense to make a play, and it works for you, but that same percentage where it works for you, that same percentage is gonna come back and bite you at some point. Does that make sense? So it's the maturity to say that I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna trust that the other 10 guys are gonna do their job. And the hard part is when they get outside of the framework and then they get rewarded for it, that's where you gotta be careful. Because now they're likely to do it more and at a higher level, and it's gonna come back to beat you more at a higher level. And I think that's what's showed up a few times. The fake field goal, literally, you go back and watch the tape, we are pointing at the guy. My guy, you watch him, he's pointing. And then what happens, the play starts, the guy goes down to block someone, our eyes get off of our man, and then all of a sudden he slips out, and then makes an unbelievable catch. So we gotta get all 11 guys, very Bill Belichick, do your job. And you gotta do it, not just one play, you gotta do it for 4 quarters, because the one play you don't, when you play good teams, they'll take advantage of it.
That's all the time we have for Coach today. Thank you, Coach, and we'll be joined by Senator Tompkins momentarily.
Thanks, guys.